Hi, I'm Nate Savage, and welcome to this guitar lesson on 4 music theory fundamentals. I know that music theory can be intimidating for a lot of newer guitar players, but in this lesson we're going to keep things really simple and focus on 4 things that you need to know as a guitar player to really start understanding how music theory works. The first thing that you need to understand and be aware of is the musical alphabet. And this may seem pretty simple, but it's very important for everything else you're going to cover in music theory. Now, the natural musical alphabet is just the exact same thing as the first 7 letters of the regular alphabet. So, the natural musical alphabet is A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. The next fundamental we're going to take a look at is the idea of half steps and whole steps. And we're going to take a look at this on the piano keyboard and the guitar as well. Now, if you look at a piano keyboard and start on any key at all, a half step is just the next key, the very next key, whether it's black or white, it doesn't matter. So you can go start on one key and go to the very next key up, and that'll be a half step up. Or you can start on that same key and go to the next key down, and that'll be a half step down. Now, a whole step on a piano keyboard is when you start on any note and skip a note in either direction. You can either go up or down to go a whole step up or a whole step down. Now, on the guitar, things feel a little bit different, but it's the same concept, right? If I started on this G note, 3rd fret of the low E string, if I wanted to go a half step up, I would just go to the very next fret. And then if I wanted to go a half step down, I would just go to the very next fret down. A whole step from this G note right here would be 2 frets, or skipping a fret. So I would go up from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret. From that G to that A, that would be a whole step. And the same thing, if I go down, skip a fret, I would go down to this F on the 1st fret of the E string right there, from this G note. Now, that's not always the case on guitar, but for right now, that's how I want you to think about half steps and a whole step. So, for example, if I started on this G note right here, I could also have a whole step that's on the next string over this A note. And that's the same A that's one whole step away on that low E string as well. The next area of music fundamentals that you need to be aware of is the area of sharps, flats, and naturals. Now, a natural note is just an unaltered note, just like the natural musical alphabet we went over earlier, no sharps and no flats. Just like the C note right here. It's a C natural. Now, a sharp sign looks like a tic-tac-toe sign, and anytime you put a sharp sign next to a note, it's going to raise that note, that natural note, by 1 half step. So if you have this C and put a sharp sign next to it, it would make it a C sharp, and you would raise it by 1 half step. Now, kind of the opposite of a sharp sign is a flat sign. And a flat sign just looks like a lowercase b kind of. And what happens on that, if you have this C natural right here, and you put a flat sign next to it, you're going to lower that note by 1 half step. So you can play that open. You would have like a C flat right there. Now, if you start out with a sharp note, for example, if this C sharp right here, and later on in the piece of music, you see a natural sign next to it. This is what a natural sign looks like. What would happen is you take that C sharp and move it down to a C natural. If you've been following along so far, that's great. But this next fundamental is a little bit harder to grasp than the other ones that we've gone over so far. It's called the B, C, and E and F rule. The B, C, E, and F rule states that every natural note in the musical alphabet, except for B and C and E and F, have a whole step in between them. That means that B and C and E and F only have a half step between them. Let me say that again for you. The B and C and E and F rule states that every natural note in the musical alphabet has a whole step between them, except for B and C and E and F. They have half steps between them. This can be demonstrated really well by a graphic. Check out this picture of the natural musical alphabet. You're going to see A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? And below that, you're going to see a series of whole steps and half steps. And every two natural notes have a W below them to signify that those notes have a whole step between them, except for B and C and E and F. Another really effective way to look at this is to take a look at a piano keyboard. And within an octave of the piano keyboard, there are 2 spots where you have 2 white notes together. Guess what those two groups of notes are? Those are B and C and E and F. Those two white notes are natural notes, have no black note in between them, so there's only a half step between B and C and a half step between E and F. That's it for this lesson on music theory fundamentals. If things are unclear or confusing for you at this point, that's okay. Go through this video as many times as you need to start understanding what's going on with all the concepts that we covered. Music theory is kind of like a good book. You get more out of it every time you read through it or go through it. If you like this guitar lesson, either like the video, leave a comment below, or just go to guitarlessons.com where you can find a lot more lessons on music theory. I'll see you there.